Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show Live. It's been a while. It's actually been, I think, like a couple months since I've done a live stream, and I'll explain all those details. But welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Do let me know in the chat if you could hear me. I think that you can. It's always good to double check these things, especially after a little bit of a break there. So just let me know if you can indeed hear it. I see we have David in the chat, Tony as well. Thanks a lot. David's one of the kind moderators to make sure everyone's nice and friendly out there. I can move this thing down a little bit. Excellent. So I don't have a solid agenda for the day, but the schedule was perfect for doing a live stream. So I thought I should do a live stream. So I don't have specific talking points or a theme, which is typically really good to have, nor do I have a guest, which I did the last couple times. And I look back at the calendar and it was something like September, early September, the last time I did one of these live streams. And it's just been a little bit busy in that I was out of town sometimes. Often I actually had the gear to do a live stream, but the lighting was a little bit off. But I had my camera and I had a microphone, and I've done it before, but the lighting was a little off and the sound was a little off, and technically on vacation. So I decided not to do those live streams, and the little bit of a break has been good. It kind of freshens things up a little bit. And I think maybe my friend Alex Cooper, I think he had stopped doing live streams a little bit too. Maybe it was a little too saturated. Funny enough, I think I saw Alex was doing a live stream earlier this week. And Jeanette's on as well, and Tony says he'll be doing live streams again soon too. So, funny thing, I was on my channel and I saw that I technically say, hey, I do a live stream every week. So I was like, all right, I need to get back in the habit, get back into it. It's a good muscle to exercise. Running a live stream, having the chat going, and just, being out here for the community. And it's fun for me too. So a couple things that I did list. I said I didn't have specific talking points, but there has been a few things going on. Number one, we have, hopefully this is sharing properly. So this here is the search status dashboard, and it tells us about the algorithm updates. And the thing is, there've been a lot of them. There've been a lot of them here recently. So we had a core update in August. And I'll see if I could zoom in a little bit here. Yeah. So we had a core update in August. 16 days to roll that one out. We had the September, very popular, helpful content update. Everybody loves this one. HCU, helpful content update, which turned things seemingly upside down. Then we had the spam update, just a few days. A lot of these are running in parallel, like they're not even done. They're not even done by the time they start up the next one. So we had the spam update. And then I didn't notice this one here. They had ranking as experienced an ongoing issue. I forgot about this one. I think there were some tweets about that. And October 5th, coincidentally on the same day, we had the October core update, November core update starting on November 2nd, and then we have the reviews update also in November starting just on the 8th. So again, these are running in parallel. What I assume that different portions of the spam and search team run this, and it seems like none of them talk to each other, as far as I could tell. Maybe they can't email each other. Maybe they sit in a different building or something. But it seems like seems like some weird stuff's going on. So unfortunately, Simplify Gardening sounds like I got smashed over the past 3 months here. So yeah, I've heard a lot of stories of maybe even someone who does a really good job, maybe travel, right? So there's examples in many different industries, but travel might be one where someone is actually obsessed with a certain location, or maybe they live there and they actually go to places, they actually take unique photos, they give their own actual experience. Maybe they interview the proprietors of a restaurant. Maybe they talk to, people that have had experiences as well. Basically, they're doing a really good job and doing exactly what is really best for the searcher, the visitor to the website and all that. And they're getting crushed in the updates as well. So it's a little disheartening. I've gotten a lot of emails. In fact, several of them I need to reply back to. I have an email list. I encourage folks to sign up for it if you're not already on, but I think there's a link in the description. But basically I said, hey, what's going on? What can I help you with? I'm planning some new content, some new podcasts, some new videos, stuff like that. And hands down, I think it was either 4 out of 5, so 80% or more. When you reduce it down to a percentage, basically 80 to 85% of the people that replied back had some ranking impact over the past 6 to 8 weeks or so, and they're unsure what to do. We have a lot of advice on what might help things out, but the way these updates are rolling out seems like there's not enough time to make some changes, get an impact, and before another update rolls out. The other issue is, let's say, if we look back at some of these updates, there was a little bit more time in between core updates. So it's really tough. And basically some of these core updates or other updates, your site might be impacted, and then you might make changes for a few months. You may revamp the content, add a bunch of original new images, and nothing really happens until the next update rolls out. So it just depends on the type of update, why your site was impacted, and all those are details that you really don't know. It's not like Google tells you what the issue is, and they're very non-specific about what they want you to do. So they're like, good content, have experience. And again, we can find examples where people actually had really good websites with really good content, and they were writing for the reader, not the algorithm, and they still got hit. So Tony says he went from 4,000 views a day to 500. Holy cow. And what steps are you taking, if you just gave bullet points, by the way, so people can get an idea? And maybe how are you prioritizing it as well? One other thing to point out here. So we have these updates rolling out, and I think people with websites, even if you're not considering yourself as an SEO, if you're relying on some organic traffic, you see this popping up, and your friends are impacted, other people in your industry are impacted. And even if you're getting most of your traffic from some other source, like say YouTube or social, if you're getting any amount of traffic from organic search, there's impacts. And one article that I actually linked to in the description, which got a huge amount of, I want to say, there was a big response from the SEO community. And I'm not on a ton of email lists. I'm on maybe 10 or fewer email lists in the space. So I take a peek at what the chatter is occasionally, so I know what's going on. And this article by The Verge kind of, it set people off. Let me know what you think in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this later. Number one, who actually read the article? All right, so the people who ruined the internet. And the thing is, I actually have seen over time the search results get worse as a user. So forget the SEO portion, forget about that. But when I'm searching for something and I see the results, they're often shittier than they used to be. And there's a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of like inaccurate information. And I think part of it is like the huge flood of content that we see from AI. So that's one issue. The other, I mean, I published a whole lot of content that was on a scale of 1 to 10. It was probably a 5 in terms of quality, maybe even a 4, some of it. And it was content that I had written fairly cheaply. It was mostly accurate, but from an experience standpoint, I know the writers didn't actually use the products and they weren't experts in the subject area. So essentially I published stuff that wasn't that great, and it turns out it was probably much better than a lot of what AI I see out there. So this article has a catchy headline, and what I observed was I think SEOs are really sensitive. I think maybe a lot of people, I mean, this is how the fucking internet is, right? So I think a lot of people, especially Twitter, right? They see the headline, they don't read the article, and they comment on what they think the headline means, or they comment based on what someone else commented who also didn't read the article. So quickly you end up with just a lot of nonsense. So I'm actually going to be digging into more of the content of this article. I think if you read it, what I saw was a extremely well balanced article where it gave a great point of view of from the SEOs. The SEOs as an external person sees them. Danny Sullivan and Matt Cutts were quoted in the article. This Amanda Chicago Lewis, she actually was able to talk to Danny Sullivan and went through like all the different legal hurdles you have to go through to be able to talk to someone on the Google team, right? So they can't just freely say, hey, yeah, I'm going to meet with this person. So she went through all that headache. And then there are many SEOs in here. And I think, there's some from way back in the day, from like the early days of the internet, like late 90s, early 2000s, before Google was even a big player in search. And they kind of follow it along the way. So again, I think she did a really good job sharing, why SEOs do the things they do. And then actually I thought it was more negative towards Google. And that's why I was puzzled that the SEOs took offense to it. But the thing is with the internet, it's like people want to be offended. So like they read something in the worst terms possible. I thought it was great. I laughed. I cried. It was really enjoyable to read the article. Okay. So let's see what else we have going on. And let me know who actually read the article out there. Okay. Let's get back to the chat and see what's going on. If you have questions, let me know. So Jared says, are blogs still the way in SEO, or would you consider alternative forms of content? So Jared, in terms of SEO, are blogs still the way? Okay. So I think the way I'll answer this is, if you're asking, should I create a blog or should I create another type of content? I would look at what you feel the most energized by, meaning if you are a good public speaker and you like getting on video, do YouTube or some other form of video. If you do like to write, then focus on the written word. If you like talk radio and you listen to podcasts and you connect with podcasting, do that. I personally, if I was starting again, let's say I have all the skills that I currently have, but I sold everything that I have, and I'm like, I'm starting from scratch. I have a laptop. Say I have a couple $1,000s to get started with some tools or whatever. Could be a couple hundred. It doesn't matter. It's nominal, right? I personally, because I have done work in the written word with blogs, podcasting, and YouTube, I literally would concurrently start a podcast that I published on YouTube. Occasionally, I would do a YouTube video, and occasionally, I would take some of the content that I've created, either podcast wise, YouTube wise, and I would put that into the written word. Most of the time, and what I would advise a person to do when they're starting out, I would have like an outline, maybe a fairly detailed outline for a podcast episode or a YouTube script. And you essentially can take that detailed outline and create a blog post out of it. So you end up repurposing the same content, the same detailed outline in 3 different formats, and you're able to not rely solely on one type of content. That is very difficult to do. I'm assuming I have all the skills and equipment and stuff that I currently have. If I was starting from scratch and I didn't know which one of those to get started with, I potentially, and if you are a beginner, I would say just start with one. I think I maybe would start with a podcast. The reason why is it gives you a chance to start producing content so that you can get your reps in, so that you can get better at producing that sort of content. The good part is with a podcast, it's typically kind of slow to get the momentum going, and it allows you to build those skills up a little bit. YouTube is really good because there's some YouTube discoverability. And if you want to play in the social media area, there's a lot of discoverability. Those users are, in my opinion, are not as sticky. And it's a little bit harder to earn money by building a big social media following versus like if you have a podcast and you're able to build a following, like those people will probably follow you around in different platforms, and they will probably be more likely to buy a product. So overall, I would consider other content types, but focus on what you are most skilled at. Okay. Next, Tony is giving us some details. So Tony went from 4,000 views per day down to about 500. So you are completely rebuilding the theme, or you rebuild on a new theme. You're promoting your the EEAT, and you just purchased a personal name too after 8 years of trying. That will link through to the site to help with EEAT in the process of rewriting the content to include more of my insights rather than generic information. And you're going all out on the expertise as you have your 3rd book out in February, and Google is not even linking through to the site. You're an author. Okay. And Tony says you read the article and it was interesting reading all the comments. Yeah, for sure. One thing I'll mention. So Tony, you're doing video. You got a big YouTube channel, right? So I think depending on what you're working on, I think having video or adding video to the mix really sets you apart. So one thing that I'm looking at, and if you have followed for a while, like you have David and Tony, I know as well. And I mean, you guys are both doing it. I have a podcast. I have this YouTube channel. I started another one in the personal finance space, another one of my interests. And the fact is, number one, when I started, I wasn't that good at it. It's arguable if I'm good at it now. I get by, though. I get by. And it separates you from your competition that doesn't have video or a podcast, but by a huge level, right? So a quick example, I did an interview earlier this morning. Someone contacted me and like they view me as like an expert in the space, which is super kind, but they contacted me and I don't know who they are. They had a good, it was the right sort of pitch. I'll do interviews typically, but the thing is, I only this morning I looked to see how many podcast episodes they had published. I assumed it was dozens. I thought it was a lot, maybe hundreds. I didn't look. They had 4, and I was like, sure, I'll chat with you. Like, they had a VA. They were doing some stuff. It looked like a professional website when I first took a look, but I didn't look at the actual podcast feed. The point being, you're able to network really well. And Tony mentioned it earlier that having live streams is great for connections, right? You could invite people on. You could do this for podcast or YouTube, or, as long as you're doing interviews, you can network within your industry. More so, right? You can go to events, you can go to conferences, and a handful of people will know you, and or you can make connections there to interview experts and authorities in the industry. So you're able to be part of the community and actually maybe be able to speak at conferences, for example. The whole point being, if you do just a blog, that's fine. We do see all these updates coming around these days, and I mean, there's usually one in December too. Let's look back in 2022. All right, yeah, so 2022, right? We had 2 updates in December. One was a helpful content, and one was a link spam update. In 2021, there were actually 2 November updates and then one in December as well. In 2020, there was a December core update. So from 2020 to 2022, there was a December update. Is there going to be a December update this time? I don't know, but if we look at the historical data and the number of updates that we've seen so far this year, I would say there's probably a decent chance there's going to be a December update as well. So essentially, if you could add a different layer of content, especially video, especially audio, you'll be able to make more connections, and you'll be separated from your peers that just have a blog. And it's hard to do, right? It's hard to launch one of these things, and it takes years to get traction. You should build an email list too. When you're doing this, like, do the whole platform, do the whole package. And at least with a podcast and an email list, those are independent platforms. YouTube, you're reliant on the algorithm. There's different rules. They could shut down your channel. With an email list, like, you own the list of subscribers, and you got to provide good information and give them a reason to want to be on your email list, but you own that. And of course, a blog is independent as well. You are potentially reliant on Google SEO traffic, but if you have the other pieces of your platform, you're not as reliant. So, okay, any other questions out there so we can keep on moving? Jason Paul is on. Just did an interview with him about the keyword golden ratio. Got to hang out with him at a conference for several days, which was fun down in New Orleans. And Tony says, you just broke through. Holy cow. I didn't realize your channel was that big. You got 400,000 subscribers with 1.5 million views a month on YouTube. That is bananas. All right. Kent, what's going on? Haven't seen you around. Appreciate the popping in. And let's see. Mr. Duck says, nice stream. It will help people write AIs for games and such. I don't even know. Not sure what that means, but you have a squirrel as your avatar there, so that's cool. Yeah, so there were a couple pieces in the Verge article where I literally laughed because it was so relatable, or it was such a silly thing from the SEO community, or more so, there's a section where Danny Sullivan, who I believe, I won't scroll through the whole thing. It's actually a very long article. Set aside half an hour and take your time when you read it. But there's a section here, which maybe I'll pop forward to, where Danny Sullivan, it sounds like he was a little bit defensive, where I didn't realize, like, I don't spend much time on Twitter, and it sounded like he was a little bit defensive, like, we're doing a really good job. And the interesting thing is Matt Cutts, who was in a similar role when I was first getting started with the SEO. I remember Matt Cutts like catching a lot of flack, but actually he sounded really like friendly in this specific interview. And I would encourage people to take a look at that portion, especially where, here, I'll read a quick quote. So Sullivan is mad that the public and the media don't really understand what he considers to be basic precepts about how search works, leading him to adopt a rather scolding tone online. He's frustrated that people want to know every last detail about Google's algorithm, because even if we listed all 1,000 of the ranking signals and how much each was worth, that wouldn't actually help SEOs do their job better anyway. So yeah, I mean, I think she was, rightfully not strict, but sort of direct about Sullivan. And further, and most of all, Sullivan is pissed that people think Google results have gone downhill, because they haven't, he insisted. And the thing is, it depends on what you're searching for, right? And I'm sure people have different opinions. There's some stuff you could really search for and get a good answer, and then there's other stuff where it's just kind of nonsense. And then when you add in some of the AI, the SGE results we see, I mean, some of those are really shitty, and they don't make any sense, and some of them are spot on. So it's kind of, it leads us to not trust it, right? Or at least me not trust it. If it's like some of them are really good answers and some of them aren't, then you kind of have to lean on the least common denominator and be like, all right, if it's something important, I actually can't trust the result here. So that's where we're at. And like I mentioned, I'm going to do some more content around this article coming up probably in a few weeks. It'll be in December, most likely. Okay. Tony says the email rules, and I didn't realize until recently I have 7,500 on email, and I promoted a raised bed and it made 2,500 on commissions, and I've produced 13 ebooks as giveaways, but not implemented as yet. You're right. Yeah. So I would say, like, email list, one of the number one things you could work on. When I first got started in 2013, by the way, I made a ton of mistakes, but in 2013, there were people that I was following that said the biggest mistake I made was I didn't start capturing emails and sending emails at the very beginning. I started years later. And once I started, I realized it was fantastic. And it takes a little getting used to send the emails out. You feel like maybe you're bothering people, but they signed up and they can unsubscribe if they want to. But if you're providing something helpful, something entertaining, people will stay on the email list. They may not read every email. I mean, I do this sometimes. I'll be really interested in a topic. I'll read a lot of emails from that person and then not be interested. And maybe I come back later. I'll stay subscribed. But the thing is, with emails, there's far fewer distractions, right? So all these pieces work together as your sales funnel. And if you do have the list, you're able to direct them to exactly what you want them to go check out, whether it's a video or a blog post or whatever. Business growth says December update is Google's Christmas gift to us, so we don't spend too much time about for the holidays. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. All right. And Yuri says, how do people make money with programmatic advertising? So most likely I don't understand your question, but I think they typically run, if it's programmatic advertising, I mean, those are probably going to be ad networks unless you mean something different. Again, I'm pretty sure I'm misunderstanding your question. And there's ads that run, but I'm not really sure what you're asking. If you want to rephrase, I'm sure someone out in the audience knows. Tony says, I wish Google would come out with a step-by-step rather than all the advice they do that only applies to smaller sites and not the likes of Forbes and Verge and so on. Yeah. And the thing is, we could always find examples that didn't fit. And Google would say, do this, and this is the best practice if you want to rank well. And we could find exceptions here and there. You could always search and find them. But now it's sort of flipped upside down, and it has to be, I mean, it's absolutely bananas. So again, I love having a YouTube channel, and I love having, traffic from SEO and that sort of thing. But it really is a risky proposition to like have your business based on like a Facebook group, something like that. It can work for a really long time, but I mean, there were stories, whatever, in 2014 where people had, huge businesses based off a Facebook page, and then Facebook basically started charging to be able to access your audience. And Facebook groups are fine now, but what if they change how you can interact with your group? To be fair, I have no fucking idea. I stay out of Facebook. I don't interact there. It's just a login that I still have, but that's about it. Oh no, and Tony also says a friend with 1 million subs had it canceled because it was canceled by YouTube because someone placed 3 copyright strikes. They never did a copyright, but YouTube didn't listen. That's when I learned the only following is email. Man, that's a rough one. All right. Jared says, if I was starting over, do I recommend targeting keywords with difficulty in line with your DA or using the KGR? I think really both of them. I would use the KGR to help prioritize for sure, but you could certainly look at your domain authority and your domain rating to see what sites are actually ranking for those keywords to help inform you on how you should prioritize things. I know Kyle Roof over at Internet Marketing Gold. I don't think I have a link in the description. I'm an affiliate for the membership there, which is like Netflix of SEO courses, a lot of advanced courses and information there. But I believe Kyle talks about making sure that you're publishing content that's targeting keywords that are in line with the sort of profile of your site. So you're not going for keywords that you have very, very low chance to rank for, but you're kind of in line, and you go, longer and longer tail, and the keyword golden ratio helps you identify those long tail keywords. Tony says, I have a page and 2 groups, but only about 40,000 following on Facebook, but stopped building it when they started controlling and pay to play. Yep. Makes it a little tough. And I know actually, like, I focus a lot on podcasting. I have some friends that started shows, and I know 1 or 2 of them had fairly substantial Facebook groups, and it really helped them launch their shows. So they were able to get the community to help them out to, download and leave ratings and reviews for their show when they launched, and it helped them get a lot of traction early on. So certainly valuable if that's your thing, but you always know, just like with YouTube, like you're saying, Tony, you could have a giant channel, million subscribers, which is a lot. You think you have some clout. You might even have like an account manager with YouTube, and it's just bananas that they would kill the channel like that. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough to get people off of the platform to sign up for your email list, but work to do it. It's really worth the effort to figure out the right lead magnet, to create a tool or something very useful, very clearly useful to get them off whatever the platform is and onto your email list. Right. And Tony says, I will do a podcast, but you need more time, so you'll wait until you quit the 48-hour firefighting job. Yeah, that's intense. All right. So we're going to go a little shorter today, Got a couple things going on. So be sure you're on my email list. Speaking of email list, check out my podcast. So I got the Doug.Show Podcast. I publish the interviews here over on YouTube. But if you want to check out my other show, it's called Mile High Fi. It's about financial independence and personal finance. So check those out. Be sure you sign up for the email list. We do have a few more questions, and I could tell stories like I normally do. All right, Jared says, what's my favorite AI writing tool? WriteSonic is the one that Jared likes. So I haven't played with very many of the tools. Typically, I just use ChatGPT and Claude. There are countless other tools out there, and every time I talk to someone, every time I do an interview, someone has an idea about some other tool that they find super helpful because it helps write in a certain voice, or they have a really good template set up, or it's a really good system to publish a huge amount of content without any interaction or editing. You could publish straight to WordPress. I haven't tested any of those tools. They all sound very interesting. For what I'm doing 90% of the time, I can get by with ChatGPT and Claude. Claude, I think, does a slightly better job writing the actual prose. When I need an outline, or I need some more like critical thinking or critiquing of the content, I feel like ChatGPT does a little bit better of a job, but to be fair, I haven't been using them a ton here recently. I do have a couple ideas for things I could do. All right. And Tony says that's why I've written the 13 ebooks as lead magnets. I just need to start using them. And you're glad to see me back on the live streams. Yeah. And the thing is, Tony, like what I'm looking at now, right? So we'll do a quick little lesson on funnels in the next few minutes that we have here. So ideally here is I would have like an outline. You know what I think I could do here? I haven't done this in a while. My desk is a bit of a mess, but let me see what I can do because I have an overhead camera here and I can write things down here. Okay. Can we all see that? Let me know in the chat here. I could actually zoom in too. Pretty high tech. This is the kind of stuff you can do. All right, hold on. Okay. So yeah, let me know in the chat if you can see this okay. So here is what I would do. So I would have an outline, detailed outline, like I mentioned earlier. And the outline would feed into a blog post, a YouTube video, and a podcast. Technically, right, I could like republish a YouTube video and podcast that's just the same, right? But the thing is, like, natively, a podcast can be a little bit longer. And on YouTube, I mean, I'm a YouTube viewer myself, and we're a fickle bunch. Get to the fucking point fast, right? And I could do a 40-minute podcast and people are happy with it, but they want to see an 8-minute video, right? So let's say different lengths I can expand and talk longer for certain things. And technically, the other thing is I can get a transcript. I use a tool called Descript. I can get a transcript, feed that into ChatGPT. GPT. So feed that into ChatGPT and get a blog post. Cool, right? Then I could also say, hey, give me a lead magnet. Make it a one pager, right? Again, people want you to get to the point. So one pager lead magnet. And I could say, by the way, give me a copy for the email opt-in. I use Kajabi. I could set up a landing. They have funnels all set up over here, right? I could say, give me a landing page. I could then put that email copy into Kajabi where they get added as an email sub here, right? And then they go into the autoresponder series. They also get my broadcast emails here where I could send them to this other content whenever I publish it. And the key is actually using this funnel. Right, Tony, I'm right there with you. Like, not all of the content ideas make sense to have like an actual lead magnet created for it. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. One that does make perfect sense is if you have a tool or some sort of spreadsheet or a calculator or a list of references, or Tony, right? Like maybe you have a plan for, and Tony, I think, you know this stuff really well, but like, let's say you have a plan for a DIY raised garden. You could say, here's the parts list, just download it, and then you can get all this stuff yourself, right? So it's super simple, And if you have the tools, again, like a tool like Kajabi, but it doesn't matter. You can use ConvertKit. You could use whatever email system you want. And then the autoresponder, you could start with like one email, keep it simple, and just slowly you can add more here. I think I currently have like 15, but the reality is I need to, well, I don't want to half it like this, but it kind of works, I guess. Um, hold on. I need the picture in picture. There we go. Sorry. All right. So basically, you can add more to the autoresponder over time. I have like 15 emails in there currently, but a lot of them are old, and I'll be honest, I've been a little lazy. And chances are I'm just going to delete about half of them. These were the cream of the crop. I've had like 50 emails in this sequence before, but I got rid of the 35 of them that weren't that great, kept about 15, which were the absolute best ones. And I will probably get rid of half of them, come up with new ones. And again, I have plenty of ideas for the actual content, and it's just a matter of doing the right length video for YouTube, the right length for the podcast. Have a lead magnet where I say, hey, you want to go deeper on this topic, get the cheat sheet, and then they're on the email list, and it feeds really well. So that's a little funnel design lesson, and that's it for today. If you want to catch more of these in the future, it will be awesome. Thanks for popping in and joining me. I think that's it. If you have any questions, especially, if you want to leave a comment later, if you're watching the replay later, most of the views come later. And the best part of it was at the very end, the little funnel design I did there. All right, we'll catch you on the next one, and I think we'll do it weekly again. We'll get back into it. So you all have a good week, and we'll catch up soon.